the blessings of righteousness and the power of the sacred blade, I cast thee back to the vile pit from which you came.
What is an auteur? Well, for one thing, it's a French word. But when we talk about movie directors, auteurs are usually the ones who are revered for their singular vision and personal style. They're the filmmakers whose work is considered instantly recognizable. You know, like Wes Anderson, Ralph Bakshi, Taika Waititi, oh, Michael Bay.
Oh yeah!
Auteur is not a word that gets thrown around as much in the world of television, but especially not in animated kids TV. With cartoons, the characters and brand are the stars. Just take a look at some of the shows we've looked at in this series, whether they're from the 80s, like the real Ghostbusters, or the aughts, like Jackie Chan Adventures. Now, that's not to say that these shows don't have unique elements to their voice and style, but for the most part, they let style take a back seat to straightforward storytelling. And then there's Genndy Tartakovsky and his 2001 masterpiece, Samurai Jack.
Once again, I am free to smite the world as I did in days long past.
Tartakovsky is an animation icon, and his expressive, visual-driven storytelling spanned an extremely productive career. He was a supervising producer on most of POWERPUFF Girls, created Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack, as well as directed Star Wars, Clone Wars. Samurai Jack is unlike anything you've seen before in a kid's show. It's weird, different, artsy, and super enthralling. When I first watched it, I was all in because it was so different from the cartoons I was used to. Especially during a time where most of my friends were kind of on the outs of watching cartoons, Samurai Jack still appealed to me at the ripe old age of 17. Yes, I'm old.
Oh.
I'd venture to guess the same could be said for you guys who are around the same age range. Eh?
Yes!
Jack reminds you that you don't need much, if any, dialogue to tell a story. It shows that beautiful animation is not just a means to telling a story, but an end in itself. And it dared future animated shows to come get on its level. Here's everything you didn't know about Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack was produced by Cartoon Network Studios. The first run of the show was 4 seasons long and premiered on August 10th, 2001 and ran through September 25th, 2004. After a 13-year hiatus, the 5th and final season aired in Adult Swim's Toonami block from March 11th to May 20th, 2017, co-produced by William Street Productions. The first 4 seasons had 13 episodes each. The first season technically has a 3-part first episode, but as Gimli says in The Return of the King,
"That still only counts as one."
The 5th season had 10 episodes. Samurai Jack is sort of like the Twin Peaks of cartoons. When it came back, a long time after its initial conclusion, it was different, which is really cool. Or maybe Twin Peaks is a Samurai Jack of live action. Huh? Think about it.
You left us all to die.
But yeah, the 5th season of Samurai Jack is way grittier, darker, sadder, and far less for kids.
Help us, Jack.
Which is kind of touching, because in the 13 years between the 4th season ending and the 5th season beginning, the kids watching had literally grown up. Or in the case of old-ass people like me who were young adults when we first watched, we had grown up even more?
50 years have passed, but I do not age.
The 5th season was a big moment for viewers, and the fact that we never got a resolution to the story for a decade hung over the show like a shadow for fans and the creators alike. So getting the show back was a pretty euphoric moment in animation history. So what's the show about? Well, a long time ago in a distant... You know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'll let the show do it, that way in the theme song section later on. Here's my kinda lamer summary. The show followed the adventures of Jack, a samurai locked in a time-bending battle of good versus evil against the demon Aku.
You might have beaten me now, but I will destroy you in the future.
There is no future for you, Aku.
Aku sends Jack from his home in feudal Japan deep into the future, where Aku functions as a kind of god emperor. There is a big component of epic destiny involved. Jack has a magical, god-given sword and is the universe's seemingly only hope to defeat Aku. At the same time, most of the show's actual story involves Jack on side quests doing good throughout the world as he prepares for an eventual showdown with Aku. Samurai Jack doesn't really have main characters besides Jack in the way you'd have on most other cartoons. Though, there are tons of memorable supporting characters, like Rothschild,
We'll see about that.
the Scotsman, and many more. but for the most part, they're woven in and out of the story rather than staples of the narrative. Although it's important to note, this structure changes with the 5th season, which has more of a single arc with more important supporting characters like Ashi. And this all makes sense given Tartakovsky's original vision for the show. When Tartakovsky pitched it to Cartoon Network, he reportedly said he wanted to do a cartoon version of the David Carradine show Kung Fu. That show is also about a martial arts master who lives as a fish out of water, in that case a Shaolin master wandering the American Wild West. And Cartoon Network execs loved the idea, obviously. But influence-wise, there's a lot more going on than just Kung Fu. For one thing, Tartakovsky says he's had a recurring dream since he was 10 years old that he fights mutants in a post-apocalyptic world. And that is definitely in the mix. So any of you aspiring creatives who are watching this, definitely write down your weird dreams. I mean, James Cameron says he got the idea for Terminator from a dream about a metal skeleton rising up from lava. Turn those nightmares into art and possibly some dough, you know? For Samurai Jack, there's a whole range of cinematic influences too. Tartakovsky shouts out 70s cinema as well as epics like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia.
I think the perfect example of it is like in Lawrence of Arabia, where there's just a horizon, a blue sky and sand, and you see the camel come out. That's kind of where the core of it is.
But Japanese cinema and art are definitely in play here too. Tartakovsky has singled out Akira Kurosawa as a big influence. Just take a look at some of these Kurosawa clips and you'll quickly see why. But I think you can also feel some influence of Masaki Kobayashi's form, movies like Harakiri and Samurai Rebellion. The tale of the lonely wandering samurai, or ronin, is also a key trope in Japanese storytelling, like the movie series The Blind Swordsman, ZATOICHI. But the trope extends to literature as well, like in the writings of Kyoto Bakin, who lived in the 18th and 19th century and whose own brother was a real-life ronin. Hey, the more you know.
Yes, I know.
We also like the nods to other cultures and mythological stories throughout Samurai Jack as well. But Samurai Jack is way more than just the sum of its influences. It has a voice all its own. I mean, it's a freaking kids cartoon that sometimes looks more like modern abstract art. We don't even have to get too deep into the show. Just look at the very first scene of the entire series. Exquisite. Samurai Jack also sets itself apart by daring to experiment with silence and sound effects, but above all, refrain from too much dialogue.
Tend not to like dialogue to begin with. If I can do it with pictures, I'll do it with pictures. And so I wanted to make room for the visuals to shine and for the music and the sound effects and have this different experience.
Verbal exposition is minimal, and the show is really at its best, just blowing you away with its visual perspectives and gorgeous illustrations. I will say, I appreciate this type of stuff more now as an adult than I did back when I first watched purely for entertainment. The show also loves to play with aspect ratio, which puts it in a camp with Wes Anderson, so that's pretty dope too. By the end of the show, it gets emotional as f***. I'm talking about all in your feelings. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, all I can say is brace yourself and have some tissues ready, because it hits you right there.
Long ago in a distant land.
The intro of Samurai Jack is pretty different, which is of course totally consistent with the rest of the show. The intro features Aku monologuing as he tells us the plot of the show with no music for the first half. And then that beat kicks in, and for the second half, we just see Jack kick all sorts of ass. For the 5th season, the opening features a monologue by Jack instead, giving us a scoop on what's gone on since we last saw him so long ago.
Aku's grasp chokes the past, present, and future. Hope is lost.
The Samurai Jack theme was written and performed by will.i.am, you know, of the Black Eyed Peas.
Go out and smash it, like oh my god.
It's rare to see such a famous musician to do a cartoon theme song, but hey, Samurai Jack is a special show, so why not? Oh, also, I'd like to give props to whoever decided to go hip-hop for the theme. Samurai Jack was of course created by Genndy Tartakovsky. He solo or co-directed every single episode of the series. His co-directing crew was small, made up of Randy Myers, Robert Alvarez, Rob Renzetti, and Chris Savino. Each of these co-directors had worked with Tartakovsky in important creative roles on previous work like Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, and most of them would continue to work with Tartakovsky after Samurai Jack too. Obviously, Tartakovsky likes working with the same people over and over, and we think this kind of close sustained collaboration helps give his shows that immersive, personal, unlike anything else touch.
Father, Mother.
There were 17 total writers on Samurai Jack, which is pretty low for a show that had 62 episodes and 5 seasons. So again, we can see that cohesiveness of the staff, leading to a really consistent, singular work. Also, keeping people employed is never a bad thing.
You Hawaii samurai.
Jason Butler wrote, was the head writer, and co-wrote all of the 52 original episodes from season 1 to season 4 with Tartakovsky. He was also the head writer on Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory. Writer Brian Larson was also a storyboard artist on Ratatouille, which I recently watched with my kid and it still made me cry.
Ratatouille? They must be joking.
Chris Riccardi also wrote for SpongeBob SquarePants and Ren and Stimpy.
You filthy swine!
Writer Charlie Bean has gone on to be a big feature film director. He directed the Lego Ninjago movie and the Lady and the Tramp creepy realistic animals reboot that came out this year on Disney+. That was weird.
You know what? Fine.
Writer Mark Andrews has also gone on to an impressive feature film career. He wrote John Carter and wrote and directed the gingerest movie of all time, Pixar's Brave.
Feast your eyes!
Of all the writers who didn't get mentioned by name, only 3 didn't work with Tartakovsky in important roles on other projects. So it's interesting that while normally the cartoons we look at here on EYDK, where the writing staff covers a huge chunk of animation history, here you see the same people working together again and again on the same shows. And actually, that's pretty cool. On the voice acting side, there are 61 total credited voice actors on IMDb. Phil Lamar voiced Jack.
Jack!
You know of me?
He was Marvin in Pulp Fiction.
I don't even have an opinion.
Well, you gotta have an opinion.
One of the original cast members of Mad TV.
You know, I'm moving like an airplane taking off, and you're like, you know?
And has lent his voice to a million animated shows like Futurama.
Sweet giant Antita of Santa Anita.
And lots of superhero cartoons like Justice League.
In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight.
And Static Shock.
I'm what you call one of your all-purpose superheroes.
He also voiced Vamp in the Metal Gear Solid franchise, which is a big one for me.
Yet again, our paths cross.
Mako Iwamatsu voiced Aku for the first 4 seasons.
No mortal can hurt the great Aku.
Unfortunately, he passed away in the time between the 4th and the 5th seasons. Mako had been acting since the 1950s and voiced the narrator in Dexter's Lab.
Enter at your own peril. Past the bolted door where impossible things may happen.
Uncle in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
With a poor stance, you are unbalanced and you can be easily knocked over.
And was the wizard in Conan the Barbarian.
I would summon a demon more ferocious than all in hell.
I will always remember him fondly from the movie Sidekicks.
Believe what is, not what you think.
Please don't tell me I'm the only one who remembers that movie.
You were perhaps overzealous.
For the 5th season, Greg Baldwin took over as the role of Aku.
After all these years, I'm not really sure how I want to do it.
He had previously taken over the role of Uncle on Avatar following Mako's death as well.
I was sad because I was afraid you lost your way.
He also lent his voice to Clone Wars and played a communist writer in the Coen Brothers movie, Hail Caesar.
Wouldn't call it ransom.
Payback.
Oh, you remember that one? Welcome to EYDK Mentions, Coen Brothers.
You said it, man.
Tara Strong voiced Ashi.
We were made for one purpose, to kill.
She's a voice acting vet who voiced Timmy on Fairly Odd Parents.
I wish I had shiny teeth.
Had worked with Tartakovsky previously on Powerpuff Girls.
I'm not afraid of the dark anymore.
And has voiced lots of animated superhero characters like Harley Quinn.
Oh, look who it is. Batman's little helper.
Grey Griffin voiced the High Priestess.
7 daughters to do your bidding, Master.
She's voiced lots of iconic animated superheroes, including Catwoman.
I think I chipped a nail back there.
Wonder Woman.
My invisible jet is missing.
And Captain Marvel.
Little me was obsessed with planes. I'd never been in one, but I loved them.
That's a pretty dope resume. Tom Kenny voiced Scaramouche.
Samurai Jack has lost the one thing in the entire universe that can destroy Aku.
He'll always have a place in animation history as the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants. John DiMaggio voiced the Scotsman.
By the look on your face, I can tell you like the pipes, wee laddie.
He'll also always have a place in animation history as the voice of Bender on Futurama.
What's the point?
Then there are the customary scattered shoutouts in the smaller parts. Sab Shimono, who played the Emperor.
Your evil cannot abolish the power of righteousness.
was also Uncle on Jackie Chan Adventures. One more thing, remember that one?
One more thing.
Rob Paulsen, who voiced Rothschild, was Yakko Warner in Animaniacs.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru.
His resume is insane, and we'd be here all day if I try to list half the stuff that he's done. Josh Peck of Drake and Josh fame was in one episode.
I hate being a coup.
And Keegan-Michael Key of Key and Peele fame contributed additional voices for the 5th season.
I was a bad-ass samurai.
Tim Curry, Mark Hamill, and George Takei each had small one-off parts, and I feel like we're shouting them out almost every week here on EYDK, so those dudes are legends and must have really, really good agents. Can I get a business card?
But enough about us.
In the world of additional media, Samurai Jack got around. In the video game department, there was Samurai Jack, the Amulet of Time for the Game Boy Advance, and Samurai Jack, the Shadow of Aku for GameCube and PS2. Jack and other characters from the show also appeared in the MMORPG games Cartoon Network Universe Fusionfall, Project Exonaut, as well as the fighting game Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion, which was released for the Wii, 3DS, PS3, and Xbox 360. He is on every console. Oh, what about tabletop games, you ask? Well, there's Samurai Jack Back to the Past board game, where players attempt to, you guessed it, help Jack get back to the past. Jack also has been appearing in comics since 2006. He's appeared intermittently in the DC Comics series Cartoon Network Action Pack. And from 2013 to 2015, IDW ran a Samurai Jack comic, although Tartakovsky doesn't consider it part of his story. A number of toy lines of Samurai Jack toys have been produced, as well as a set of Samurai Jack toys that were available at Subway restaurants. Oh, I should also mention that there was reportedly a canceled film of Samurai Jack. It was going to be produced by J.J. Abrams' company Bad Robot, and it would have been the capstone on the series. But what was going to be in the film eventually ended up as part of the 5th season. And given how the 5th season is a lot longer than one feature film would have been, we didn't really miss anything. I hope.
Run free, Samurai Jack. Run free.
Samurai Jack is different. And that's not to say that art should be different just for the sake of being different. But art can do some amazing things when it's trying to push the envelope just a little bit. Samurai Jack isn't alone in this regard in the world of animation. Animators like Don Hertzfeld or shows like Neon Genesis Evangelion or BoJack Horseman even have used animation to tell daring stories while also employing all sorts of innovation along the way. You know, it's interesting that Tartakovsky then has so many influences and referenced something as simple as wanting to redo the David Carradine show Kung Fu with Samurai Jack, because the end result was so much more. Samurai Jack, well, at least in my view, was a turning point in kids' TV. Maybe it was because I was in my teens and it felt like something new, a cartoon that was made for kids but also appealed to young adults, and as a grown-ass man of 36, it still holds up and definitely seems like it comes from a time when kids' cartoons began to grow up. What do you guys think? Am I giving Jack too much credit? Do you have a favorite episode? Let us know in the comments.
Well, it has been nice catching up, but I should go.
Thanks for watching. For more EYDK, make sure you click over here or touch, whatever you do. And for new episodes I drop every other week, make sure you subscribe over here or touch, whatever you do. Your phone or